join the Sileightymania podcast. I'm your co-host Nadine Sue, and thank you for being here for episode 6. By my side, I have our sound engineer, Mark Mondoy. And ladies and gents, here is your host, Benson Sue. Hey, babe.
What's up?
Honey buns. I almost called you not honey buns, but I'm going to just keep it.
You can't do an episode without calling me honey buns.
Okay. Hi, Mark.
Yo.
So we've just passed the halfway point of this season. Halfway. Can you believe it? So this is episode 6. So what? We're going to do 12?
No. It's a general halfway point. It's not exact.
12 sounds like a lot.
12 is too much.
I don't know.
Can't handle that.
You guys tell us what you want. I'm down for 12.
Don't tell us what you want.
I'm down for 12.
12 is a lot. We need a break.
I don't know. We'll see. Let Benson know. I think I'm down for 12. And then I'm going to go on vacay. So, all good. Okay. We have a special guest today, and this is another little bit of a different guest because we're talking to a guest from halfway around the world. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. We had to figure out time differences and everything, but we're speaking
one of us is in the future right now.
Yes, and our guest today is in Tokyo, Japan right now. So I'm really excited. Should we talk about him, or should I just do my intro? Okay, here we go. Toshi Hayama currently lives in Tokyo, Japan, and is president of Stage 10 Productions. Formerly, Toshi was the originator of Apex USA. He was the MC of D1 GP USA and was the technical advisor for Fast and the Furious 3 Tokyo Drift and number 4. He brought to us the JDM Insider video series where he shared with us footage from Japan's street drifting and toge movement in the early 2000s. In recent years, Toshi was the MC for WTAC, that's World Time Attack, and was executive support for Toyota and Lexus HQ, with lots of behind-the-scenes access to what was going on over there. Toshi's favorite pastimes are cars, of course, cooking, raising edible plants, traveling, toge driving, lucky, and kids. So, Mr. Toshi Hayama, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Nadine. Thank you, Benson, for having me. Hopefully I don't make this your last episode after today, okay? I know you guys got another 6 or so to go, but yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. We're so happy to have you, and thank you for dealing with us in this whole time difference situation, but greetings.
Yes, thanks. No worries at all. No worries at all.
Okay.
It's good to see you, Toshi. It's been a really long time. You look the same, so I'm really happy to see that.
Time has not been kind, but no, no. You guys, all you guys look the same too. So that's actually a really good thing. I think the last time we ran into each other at Mitsuya like many years ago, but yeah,
that was a really long time ago.
Yeah.
I think it's all our if you guys watching on YouTube, I think it's all our glam lighting we got going on. Toshi's got it. We've got it. I straight up brought the ring light in the podcast studio in addition to my softbox. So I got
how times have changed, right?
Yes, we know. We're in the know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Now let's bring it. Let's do this.
Yeah, let's do this. So Toshi, I've asked every single one of our guests this question, and we've kind of been in a lull because I've asked, when we started the podcast, we had really funny answers to this question. And the last ones, people didn't have a funny answer. So the pressure's on you.
Don't let us down.
When we all first got into cars, before we really knew what we were doing, before we really had the money to invest in our cars, we all did something pretty dumb to our cars to just, make it faster or something that we thought was cool. For example, Nadine cut half the springs on her car to lower it. Half, not like an inch, not 3 fingers or whatever. She just straight cut half.
Stop.
Well, you're the winner so far, so I have to use you as an example. Toshi, is there something that you remember that you've done?
That's such a one. The springs, back then, that was not crazy. That was what everybody did. Or you take them out.
Yes.
You don't
You
even
take
need
them out
springs.
completely. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
thank
we didn't
you.
have spring compressors, so we
Yeah.
would just stand on it and let it, and then just sort of take the air gun and then just rocket it into the wall in our
Yes.
apartment complex. So
Well, I thought that's when you get the propane torch and you just heat it up.
yeah.
You don't need a
I didn't have
compressor for that.
access to that,
Oh.
so we
That's
just had like a
fancy.
home saw, and yeah. So that's like normal. I was pretty Mickey Mouse with a lot of like electrical stuff and wiring. I was really bad with that. So like I didn't like to cut and shorten wires, so I would just zip tie them all together and just hide it.
Yeah.
So people would like try to help me out, and I'd be take the dashboard down and just like all these wires would come up. So like, and it was really bad, and I wouldn't cut and solder it back then, so I would just crimp them.
Right.
And it's just a nightmare. And then all of a sudden you're driving down, and your EVCs and all your boost controllers, they flickering. Or way back in the day, like my first 240 that I had, like the 89, we put nitrous on it, and we didn't even know what we were doing. So we had the nozzle way down by the airbox, like way down, like not even. Just get bigger nozzles and spray more. Just like, so I guess that's, and we would go to the street races, and we were racing this guy, and we were like neck and neck, right? And we're like, I guess both of our kits weren't working because he was supposed to be squeezing too. We get out of the car like, you're so fast. Hey, you too. Well, I'm squeezing. So am I. And then we looked, and both like the systems weren't working, and like so maybe that's it.
You had
That's
a
good.
five shot instead of a 50 shot.
Yeah, but it was like a no shot. But yeah, that was it. So, but yeah, there's too many to count.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Thanks for breaking that unlucky streak.
Yeah, I'll take it. I like that.
Thank
no shot. I like that. We'll call it the no shot NOS
The
system.
no shot nitrous. Yeah.
I like it. I'm down.
That's awesome. So, I don't know if, from what I can tell from the people that I've talked to, Toshi, a lot of people kind of know you as the guy that did the D1 GP announcing, or some people know you as the guy that did that helped with Fast and the Furious. But I know you from the guy who started Apex.
Yep, that's when Yep.
But we have never really sat down to talk about this stuff. Can you let us know how that happened?
I don't think I've ever done an interview where I've talked about it. So back in '96, we were in the early '90s. We were street racing, and it was only drag. There was no drift, obviously. So we had our crew. We would hang out at our local shop, Dynamic Auto Sports, and we were the OC kids. Then there were the East Side guys, and then Monterey Park. All the different cliques that eventually turned into the sport compact drag industry. And some of those, like even Stefan Papadakis, all the guys, they went from there into pro drifting. And some of them are now, Ed Bergenholtz there at the Nito team. So all these people, their roots are where we were, on Maria and Aaron Street, Compton, that whole area, street racing. And I was at an event, and this Japanese guy in a fluorescent hat came up to me. He's like, "Hey, you Japanese, you want to help me, this marketing?" And it turned out to be Tomo Mizutani, who was eventually the president of Nito Tires, and now is, running the Toyo Tire outfit and all these other things. But at that time, he was just a guy walking around. So basically, he took me under his wing, introduced me. I wrote a 60-page report of the market demographics and sent it out to Apex. They sent the manager at that time to fly out to meet me the next weekend.
Wow.
Made a contract. Let's start a U.S. office. And then the guy quit. He got in an argument with Isamu Hasegawa, which was the younger brother of the H in HKS.
Okay.
So HKS was 3 guys. The older brother was the engineer. The younger brother was the businessman. They split after an accident in HKS Tokyo. And then so we joined these guys. And so it's a big rivalry back then. And so I ended up running the office, starting it in my living room. Didn't have money for anything. So I took an Option magazine, photocopied the logo, and that was my first business card. And then through really good friends from street racing, like I pulled them from their other jobs, I pulled them from their other thing, and I go, dude, I'm not gonna be your boss. I'm not gonna whatever. We just need to make the best tuning company we can. I can get a budget for it. Let's try it. And the stuff, at the time we were like, hey, it works. So I pulled some of the guys we were talking about earlier, and we sort of created our own, just one good engineer, one good marketer, whatever, and started the team. And then 9 years later, we were pretty well established at that time. So in short, yeah. And so that time we got to break records with our R33 drag race car. We had lots of fun in our front wheel drive drag race car with Steph and everybody else. Worked a lot with, the late Sean Carlson, all these great people. Got to sponsor Ed Bergenholtz, all these places. And then Apex Japan happened to have the top drifting team with Imamura Yoichi.
Hold on, Toshi. Let's go back a little bit.
Uh-huh.
So when you started Apex here, was that like fresh from when Apex started in Japan? Like right when the brother had the falling out with the other brother from HKS?
No, we were about maybe 5 years in.
Okay.
5 years in or 6 years in. So it was a really ambitious operation at the time. And a lot of the guys that they took the younger rookies from HKS,
Okay.
The up and coming ones, and pulled them into Apex. Now those guys run the Toyota GT team with the Prius and all that in GT. Team APR, actually their name stands for Apex Racing. So when we got taken over by North Korean government people, and it was like a crazy fallout at the time.
Yeah.
And I don't care, it's like 20 years ago, right? But it was crazy. And so but at that time it was like the up and coming young kids. So we were all rookies at the time.
Yeah. That's cool. I think we've seen that a lot on this podcast where people, they're just passionate about what they do, and they start at the bottom, but because they continue to follow their passion and just kind of obsess about what they're doing, they become someone who's contributed so much to what they love. So that's crazy that just these low level guys are now a big part of a GT racing team. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, none of us planned any of this.
Yeah.
And I think people who did not succeed because it just, you can't control this. So like even Kenji Agretti, when I first met him, he was in the warehouse, and dude, he always was wrenching on the cars, and if you don't have that skill, you can't rise up the ranks, or you just get fizzled out. So I think everybody that we see now, and I hate Throwback Thursdays, and I hate looking back because it feels like you stopped.
Yeah.
But if you look at the people from my generation, really they already had some kind of amazing talent.
Yeah.
Since back then, so it's no surprise to me that they are where they are.
Right.
So it's just like you say. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So when you started Apex, front wheel drive cars were very popular. Hondas were very popular. I guess you can throw in some Toyotas, right? There were some MR2s were popular. Even the older Supras were popular. But in Japan, what was that like to start a business where the cars that were popular here were not necessarily the cars that were popular in Japan?
Yeah, so that was my job. So it was like anybody who knew what was going on could see that Hondas were blowing up everywhere. And like you said, there were no Hondas were just nothing in Japan. They were in the minivan trend at that time. S15s and S14s, they were tapering down. There was a crackdown, a lull, and then minivans had started taking off in Japan. So my job was to go back and basically get the budget and convince them to do the prototyping, because the Supras, the MR2s, it was very minor changes. They'd bolt right on, so they'd ship over a couple exhausts. We'd get a test fitment car, throw it on. Electronics, same thing, couple of different senses of wiring. Engineers would fly over for a weekend. We'd take it apart, send them back, redo the diagrams. I'd do the instruction manuals, and we do that. But the Hondas, we really had to start from scratch. So we would try to take the prototypes, but they were really exact, and you'd have to compensate for flex. Also, the hangers would start to deteriorate, so you want to make sure that at one point when they're looser, they won't hit. So we went through a couple of failures in the beginning, but slowly got it down. And I think once the sales came through, then they started understanding and investing more. But yeah, it was an uphill fight for a long time. Cut your costs here, cut your costs here, and we'll send you some more. Yeah. So a lot of the time, the first time, I had a shared executive's office with no warehouse, and so we would use our garages. So like the engineers would come to my house, and we would do whatever we could there, and then go back. So you just did what you could,
Right.
So
That's pretty cool.
yeah.
So tell me, like, so you guys were all friends working together, right, at Apex?
Yeah.
So did you end up?
Some we met, some we hired, but yeah.
So did you end up being the bad boss? Like, what's up? Like, how was that?
I think I do have regret. I do have regret. There were a couple of times, of course, I think that the way that companies work is vertically, and you have to have a hierarchy to get things done. Mm-hmm. And I think at one point you have to choose certain things, either for the team or for whatever. And for whatever reason, and just for the record, we've made up and it's all cool. But I still to this day have regret. I have regret for leaving and trying to pursue Stage 10, and they gave me their blessing to do Tokyo Drift and JDM Insider at the time. So I still to this day, the office is still around. I go and visit. It's just like, dude, But yeah, it's hard. You don't want to mix your hobby and your friends with work. If I could do it all over again, I don't know if I'd want to do that. It only happens in like hobby industries, I think, because it's just much more intense,
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So Toshi, I remember, I always remember that Apex FD. That thing was really cool. That was your personal car?
Yes.
When did you get it?
So I used to have an Eagle Talon made to look like a JDM Mitsubishi Eclipse, with a 4G, Stage 7.
Yes.
Everything for HKS, Tech 2, fuel management.
Yeah.
But it was not one of the major models, like, the mainstream. So I got the FD, I want to say 98 or like 97, 98, somewhere around there. Because I got my GTR in 99 when it was brand new. So it had to be right before then. And I built, it was like a 2-year build, 2-3-year build. So
when you got your FD, did it immediately become the Apex demo car?
No, because we had no money, and number two, like there were no parts for it. So at the time we were still developing the Power FC, and so they were working on that. We had some body kits for it. I wanted to go with Ari Yamamiya, but you had to represent your company, and so we mixed and matched at the time. But no, I cruised it factory stock for a while. For like a year. It was red originally, and so I had just had the Amamiya headlights and just slammed it, and then just enjoyed it for a while.
I remember seeing it at some import show-offs before.
Yeah, it got really out of control, and just it was just a side port, but I had the Apex seals from Abel Ibarra and all this custom stuff.
That was a name I haven't heard in a long time.
You're from Irvine, and I used to live in apartments, and my car, when you do the cold start in the morning, it would shake the whole building of 5 sets of apartments every day, and houses, and people be yelling at me, and it's just too much. It was like a rambunctious child, and I had to let him go. It's just out of control. Because the louder is the faster,
yeah.
So Toshi, sidebar, have you talked to Ken Miyoshi lately?
No, I know that's an ongoing theme or something, not just here, but in the industry.
Okay.
I have not.
Just checking.
I would love to, though.
Yeah, you should probably hit him up. Maybe just say.
I'll give you his phone number.
Yeah.
If you could, I'll give you his phone number. You can talk to him, but can you plead a little bit to try and get him on this podcast?
Yeah, I'll just say, I took the plunge, dude. Just come after me. Yeah. Don't worry about it. Yeah, we're all in it together, dude. Let's ruin their podcast all together.
Oh, no.
Yes.
We'll probably come in and be
Don't let them get to 12 episodes. No, stop them.
Bring it down from the inside.
We'll stop you guys by about episode 10. We'll put you out of business by then.
I like that. 10's good.
Stage 10 will put up a website for that. Don't worry. And so we'll get that going, a campaign going.
Yeah,
no, I'm just kidding.
I like that.
Okay, sorry. But anyway, so we have a red FD, and then all of a sudden...
You got an R34.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did you get an R34, first of all?
New?
Yeah, it was brand new. It had the plastic on the seats. So I don't know if I should get into this, but so I had... Oh, gosh, I don't know if I... Okay, so there was a company called Motorex back in the day, and I guess it's no big deal because I'm in JDM Insider videos with him. One of my friends back in the day was a guy named Hiro, and he was the president of Motorex. And so Motorex was just starting off. I saw them at one of the car shows. I didn't know him from before, but being Japanese, it's just conversation gets faster, right? And so you're like, hey, what's up? Whatever. I run Apex. Oh, I run Motorex. Dude, I love GTRs. Okay, hey, you want to drive one? Sure. But he only had 32s back then. So, 32s. And then so we started taking the 32s into Apex for development in the US. And so he would let us borrow them for shows. Then my staff started buying them 32, 33s. So we got dibs on those. And with Sean Morris and everybody else, Ken Takashi, all these guys that were there, we would go hang out, go, have drinks, go eat dinner. And that was our second location in Torrance, our hub, so to speak. Then they brought the initial blue one, blue R34 for testing. And I had already decided I wanted a 32 because I've always wanted a 32. But I drove that one and it felt so crisp and tight. And the way that the boost turned on. And back then they had the multimeter. I was like, whoa. And I was a sucker for electronics and gadgets. Yeah. And so I was just like, oh, I have to get this, like no matter what. And so instantly the next day I was like, okay, my FD is going in as a down payment. I'm going to sell everything I have.
Wow.
I have to get it. So we worked out, half marketing, half, obviously I had to buy it, deal. And, a couple months, they found a white V-Spec that was sitting unbought in a car dealership in Nagoya, I think. And yeah, it ended up coming into Torrance. I think it was the third or fourth one that came in for regulations. And, everybody that's familiar with Motorex, the whole fiasco and stuff, but my car was eventually grandfathered in as one of the original 14.
Oh, nice.
Federalized. And so then I had been driving on it, though, with shady plates for the first 5 years, dealer plates, and then I transferred. So it wasn't fun. And with the whole Kaizo stuff, I had to just lay low for like literally. My car sat in a garage though for like 13 years once, just straight, and it just didn't move. It's just so.
But you are grandfathered in. You were okay to drive that car.
Yeah, but the local PD doesn't know that.
Oh,
and so you just get harassed all the time. And so now it's not bad. There's 32s and all that, in the last 5 years.
Still no 34s.
Yeah. Well, and I had the car for 20 years. I can visually remember every little aspect about this is cheap plastic or this is great or it feels sluggish here. I went through 3 engines, like 5 suspension,
That's
just
wild.
Doing the Apex development, blowing it up, and so never crashed it, but just, really thoroughly used and went through that car. So yeah, I actually recently let go of it to some friends. But because as a car guy, I want to move on. Like seriously, I don't want to be labeled only with that. But yeah, I feel like she's like still R34. Like I can, it's just when you're such for 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So yeah, for me, like I'm over it. But yeah.
That was
good. It was a great car.
There are not many legal R34 cars that or part of that grandfathered process where you can actually drive it around.
Wait, but so like, hold on, you blew up your R34, like your motor? You blew your motor.
Well, one of them,
a brand new one.
One of them, yeah.
What were you doing?
Testing.
Testing? Like on the freeway?
One was on the 405 freeway, and we were in Torrance. I don't know if we were in Motorex. We were just on our way back home, and the 405 freeway stretch right after the 605. It just sort of opens up near the Seal Beach area.
Yeah.
5 lane, and so you just let loose. Third gear, fourth gear, and you have the windows open, and you're feeling the breeze and the RB26. And
that
inline
sound.
That feeling, I'm getting goosebumps about it. And all of a sudden, crunk, 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 and then all the meters just and
oh my god!
I look in the back, and it's nighttime. Obviously, it's like 2 a.m, but I look like the Blue Angels with smoke coming out the back. Crazy smoke, right?
Gosh.
Yeah, and then so that was the first time. So basically, a rod shot out the bottom of the block. We were boosting like 1.5. I don't know what I was thinking.
You naughty boy. That's why.
And then the other one was I think we didn't machine the deck completely properly. And so I was driving down Culver in Irvine of all places in the middle of the day.
Good old Irvine.
And just the gasket, that part, it just sort of gave out. And once again, plume of white smoke.
Nice.
But it was so long that the people following me, they're like, dude, you left a thing of smoke from the end of the intersection all the way across, all the way to the supermarket. It looked great. When you drive an R34, you never want to stop. And thank God there was no Instagram back then. Because they'd be like, R34 fail, hashtag blown, Toshi and Irvine, hashtag
That Apex guy.
spotted, right? So thank God, yeah. So I know there were people there, but yeah, there's no record of it. So yeah, and so the lesson was, do it right when you're building an engine.
Oh my gosh.
That's hilarious.
Okay, you're the first person I know that blew up GTR
embarrassing.
engines. How dare you?
No.
Oh my gosh.
No, people just hide it. It happens all the time.
My heart. Oh. Now let's take some time out to thank this episode's sponsor. Final Bout organizes a series of drifting events for grassroots level drivers all across the USA and even Japan, which leads me to credit them as the first to bring a US grassroots drifting competition to Japan. They highlight early 2000s style drifting, tandem driving, and car styling, which Benson and I just adore. Final Bout was founded in 2015 by Simba, Phil Lee, Ilya Smolov, and 3L.
What can I say about Final Bout? I mean, we mention it in like every single episode. So thankful for what they've done to really bring back the golden years of drifting for us, like the early 2000s style. They really spearheaded the movement of just bringing car style back into drifting. And I really credit them for this whole grassroots movement we're experiencing right now.
Yeah, and I just love the cars that come out to Final Bout's events. We started going to Final Bout back in, was it 2015?
Yeah,
Like, one of
2015, the very first one. And I got to judge with Chicago OG Rob Ryder and alongside Toshiki Yoshioka, which that's amazing.
Yeah, you're so lucky. They asked me to come too sometimes, but you got to do the fun stuff.
You're on the judges booth with us, entertaining the crowd.
Yeah, it was super fun. But I would say that's like my first exposure to a really cool drifting competition that I actually loved, because I've been just so accustomed to watching the pro level stuff, and I kind of just fell out of love with that. And I love what Final Bout does. We are so lucky to have them as a sponsor on this episode. And I want to tell you that Final Bout's last event of this year will be on their home turf at US Air Speedway in Shawano, Wisconsin, September 4th and 5th, 2021. You can purchase your tickets online at final-bout.com, and don't miss this opportunity to see the magic in person. So our giveaway will be Final Bout merch, and they have the coolest shirts, and they get them custom done for like every event that they do in their series. And Benson collects all the shirts, and then he doesn't share them with me, but I steal them anyway.
I want to plug their shirts a little bit. I want to give them some credit because there are too many companies out there doing car-related merch that just has a logo on it. Final Bout does a really good job at making sure these shirts look really good. They have really great colors. The designs are awesome, and anyone would wear them. If you're into fashion, if you want like a really good-looking shirt, and you don't know about cars, people will totally rock a Final Bout shirt. That's my favorite thing about all the merch.
Yeah, you can buy a shirt like that from like Gucci or something. It looks good. I like it. But anyway, shout out to Final Bout. Thank you so much for supporting this episode of the Sileightymania podcast. Visit Final Bout's website at final-bout.com and check out their IG at Final Bout. And now, let's get back to the grilling.
So let's talk about your experience with JDM Insider. Did you and Hiro start that on your own?
Yeah. So we were drinking again, and we're like, hey, let's make a video. What kind? What we do every day. All right. What, like go street racing and hang out with all the drifters? And yeah. What, is this for profit or something? He's like, yeah.
Is this while you guys were in Japan?
No, this is where we were in California.
Okay.
So we were over here.
Before you started JDM Insider, have you and Hiro, had already been in Japan and have experienced all the street racing and stuff?
No. So my street racing and my experience was purely through individual trips to Tokyo Auto Salon and through Apex.
Okay.
Apex, hanging out with engineers and going back for training and work. The off time was magical. And so we would go to these guys' houses and like 10 guys in this small one room watching videos or hey, come with us one night. You know, we'd sneak out and we'd go check out the street races. So I had already known, and by the time JDM Insider came out, I had already started working as a professional with a lot of some of the Japanese drivers. Like my first hero moment was with Tarzan Yamada when he came in the R33, and I never met a superstar from Option that was so humble, and that was like mind blowing for me. So
that's mind blowing to me.
By then, yeah,
because Tarzan is so larger than life when the camera's on, and you know he's like beating people.
The nicest guy.
Really, that is so funny.
It's a split personality, but like usually, yeah, he's very shy. Like in general,
that was our experience with Nomuken.
Yeah,
because when the cameras were around, he was Nomuken, you know, like messing around, and then cameras shut off, and he just stopped.
I hear that from Manapi of Option Video as well.
He's like that too.
Yeah, they're very humble, very and then that's why they last as long and they have a great fan base because you never hear bad things about them because they're not bad people. Right. They're just like they're just shy. I don't know.
That's funny.
But yeah.
So you were
so I already knew about the street races. Yeah.
Oh, so you were still working at Apex, like you haven't left yet, or is this because I know that?
Yeah. So JDM Insider, because Hiro started it, he had initially wanted to start it. He was doing like C-West and a couple other brands at his place at Motorex. Mm-hmm. So he got the people together on that side. I already knew Mr. Omoto from C-West already. So he was just like, hey, if you're going to do it with him, that's cool. I'll help sponsor. And that's where DRFT. So if you look at each JDM Insider series, like for the real hardcore guys, like the first one was like sort of a test, just, whatever.
Yeah.
The second one, we got serious. We hung out with Ueno and everybody. And then the third one was sort of the peak of the original crew. And then 4 and 5 were after Motorex stuff started going, haywire. And we had decided we need to continue one more time. So that's when I funded everything. It was like 50, 60 grand and totally lost all money. We never made money off of JDM Insider. And so I didn't, because initially the first 3 had production teams, production groups. And so we had also partnered with Phil and Robbie from 360 Video, who I'm still great friends with till today. And so what I got out of it was the wake-up call of the importance of real videos and the camaraderie of really street racing, and we really got to document like some cool stuff. Right, for a while, like we were getting beat down, like you guys are proliferating the bad image, and like my parents would get heat. Like my dad would brag to my uncle, hey, my son's doing this, and my Japanese uncles were like, but that's illegal.
Oh,
and it did shut down everything.
Yeah,
it's like worse than skateboarding back in the day, right? So that hurt, but now, looking back, I wouldn't have it any way. And I look back and it was just so natural. So that's, that's just, I guess how it was. So yeah, I have no regrets about that. It was a fun ride.
Yeah. I noticed that in volume 1 of JDM Insider, you guys kind of explored a bunch of different things. Like you guys were partying, you guys were at Tokyo Auto Salon. You did some like street racing. But then I noticed after volume 1, it was very heavily street racing, but a lot of drifting. Was that something you guys realized that was what your viewers wanted to see, or what you guys were interested in? How did it kind of change course that way?
So I don't think, to be honest, like I don't think we were thinking too much about what the viewers wanted to see, because at that time, there were no viewers. So they were like, Grip Video had some, everything was sport compact. Everything was car shows. And so, we weren't like, the drifting had not taken pro level. So there was none of that. So we were just like, we did the first one because when we sat down, we didn't know how to do videos. We had no professional experience. The 360 guys, they had a little bit more from their skating videos. So they gave us the structure. It's like, hey, bro, you need to have some sort of flow. All right, we'll go to Tokyo Auto Salon. That's when all the tuners come out, save some money, because the production cost for JDM Insider, the most expensive thing was travel. And so you take 6 to 10 guys out there drinking, we're partying, airplane tickets, hotels, car, and has nothing to do with the video production, but already you've got like a 20 grand bill, right?
Yeah.
So and sponsors back in the day, hey, we'll give you t-shirts, we'll give you whatever. It's like, bro, I need a plane ticket, right?
Cash
like,
money.
And YouTube wasn't around, so and it was DVD. So we did what we could. All the stuff in JDM Insider 1 was based around, if we were in the Tokyo area around Autosan, okay, let's go to MegaWeb, let's do this, who's around that weekend, who's free, oh, could you meet up with us? And then the C West guys are like, okay, afterwards come down to Osaka, we'll do what we can as the inaugural event. And then Uchi came out. The second one, we're like, okay, so we got the first one out. The 360 guys had I think it was I forgot, the Filipino production company, they stepped up a little bit more with funding. They sent their own guys and a producer. We were just hosts. I had not taken over JDM Insider until like 5, but I was like sort of helping with the creative, like completely under my responsibility. But so we would sit down and Hiro and I would write where we want to go, whatever, and like, and basically at the end of the day, it was like, who do you know? I'm like, I know Ueno. So I call him up and say, hey, if we go out there, can we hang out with you? He's like, yeah, what do you want to do? And so I would talk with him. We can go here. That's great. Okay. And then we just went and we played it by ear. And, every night we're like, is there enough good stuff? Do we get it?
Yeah.
And, it was totally like amateur.
Yeah.
Like normal video production people would like probably freak out.
Yeah.
Like, as did the executive producers that they sent in. But yeah, so the hardest part was making sure that the editors like Phil and Robbie got paid to make it.
Right.
Because their creative influence, which really affected me, really made it what it was. So like a half skate music video, and whatever. So that's so it was really by ear. So all the way till the end, actually, like it was always who can we call next time? What can we do? And that's all it was.
That portion of the video with Ueno was gold. I think. Well, I mean, I don't know if you knew Uchi before Ueno, but I mean, Uchi was like kind of like a recurring guy on your videos, and you were doing a lot with him afterwards. But like to see Ueno street drifting, I think that's huge because you don't see. I mean, there have been times where D1 drivers have been in trouble for street drifting, and they've they've had their licenses suspended, and I mean, that's a big deal for like a professional drifter where that's all they want to do, and then they can't do it. So maybe it wasn't like that at the time, but you don't see that anymore, and I think that was a really cool thing to see.
Ueno was really interesting for me to choose because he was in a unique position at the time. So we had our Apex D1 team with Yoichi, and HKS had Taniguchi, and everybody's just battling it out all the time, right? T&E was the only company that sponsored both HKS and Apex, and he had the Vertex kits on both. And I had already known Arito from before, and that's why he was in the JDM Insider too. But so Taniguchi, Arito, and Ueno live in Suzuki, Japan, which is right by Yokohama. So like they're like homie neighbors, and so they have this little club, Suzuki, whatever. But so that's why that relationship solidified. There was no other precedent to where one aero manufacturer has sponsored HKS and Apex at the same time, especially at their peak. And that's why I knew Ueno. And during the first D1 Grand Prix, we housed Kuma Kubo, everybody's car, including some of the HKS cars, at our office until we could get out to the field and to do some of the driver searches, whatever. And so, you have Nomuken Blitz cars and all this. And like as a fanboy, me, I'm just like every day I'd stay at the office until midnight, just walk out quietly into the cars looking at. But going back, the T&E cars were the only two, and so I had a really close relationship with Ueno. And then at that time we go back, And I think it's just a trust issue, but we would be coming back from the airport and say, hey, watch this. you know. For the record, there were areas in Yokohama where they live where it's just, I'm not condoning it, but it's just dead.
Yeah.
So those are sort of the places we went. But you won't see them doing it now. Yeah. It's they older and wiser,
right.
I suppose.
Yeah,
but,
no, definitely. That's interesting.
But so many magical moments. Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned that Apex housed a lot of those D1 cars for when they first came over, because I remember that, and I thought that was really cool to have all of these different works cars from different teams all in the Apex warehouse. And then there was a practice event that there was no drifting on the inner bank of Irwindale yet, but all the cars came. You guys didn't know what Keiichi was planning, what the course was going to be like. And so I remember there was a private Apex testing day at Irwindale on the infield. And I was lucky enough to be one of the drivers invited to go and test with you guys. And that was kind of a real moment for me. We've seen some D1 cars come over, some drivers come over, but it was kind of at a distance. But we were all there testing at the same track next to these guys.
Wasn't it great?
It was
so much
it was
fun.
magical. Yeah. It's like seeing. I mean, Ueno's everything about Ueno is so just like it's top notch. Like the way his car looks, the vinyl,
his helmet.
His helmet. No joke, I stood there and I stared at his helmet for like 5 minutes. Just how beautiful it is. But yeah, and then to see him and Imamura test that, like, drift on the outer bank for the first time. Like the people that were there that day were the first persons to ever see drifting on the outer bank. And that to me is like something I hold really dear to me, because I mean, there was a handful
cool. You
of
remember
us.
that?
Of course I remember it. It was
No, I think we overemphasize the word magical, and with all the toxicity on the net right now with fanboy. Like, I'm proud to say I was a fanboy, because you're looking at people that are doing something that you love at a higher level.
Yes.
Of course you're going to be a fanboy.
Yeah.
You're not idolizing them. You're idolizing what they do, what they represent, right? And so all kinds of things happened. I think that those kind of magical moments can't be they need to be emphasized more, I think.
Yeah.
Because there's far and few between now these days. Just overloaded with just, I don't know with what.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. It was funny when I watched JDM Insider Volume 1, when it was new, it wasn't something that I noticed, but it was something because I watched it again before our interview, and it was crazy to see all the people that you were with. You were there with Steph Papadakis, Jim Law, Gary Castillo, just all these people who have continued pursuing what they love and becoming people who have contributed so much to this car culture that we love. And just to see you guys young and ambitious back then, and how you guys weren't really anyone then, it's just cool to see like how far everyone has come.
I think, I know I could speak for Jim and everybody else too. It's like, after a while, you're not doing it to be famous or to do it. I'm going to build Formula. It's like at that time, right. We're like, and I knew Jim and everybody's from college. And so it's just, and just like you guys, it's like something has to motivate you more than just, a certain goal or a certain position in the industry. Right. So yeah, I think that's the main thing. And a lot of people have failed, I mean, we're only talking about 5 people, but there's 50, hundreds that we know of that just faded out. And so is that bad? No, you just do something else. I mean, even this industry, I can't even believe it's an industry in the beginning. It's like nobody says, you want to make a living with cars? No, dude, just you do it for fun. Yeah. And so, so people used to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a very pivotal. It's an interesting ride that we were on, that we're still on. And I think, but that's why I like tuning cars, and I like cars, and I like the movement of cars, but I like drag racing. Then it moved to drifting. I also see the promise in time attack cars, but for me, it's more of the JDM cars, where they go. And just because I'm so intertwined with just the JDM tuning, world, I guess, the people. And now I'm getting my happiness through being able to peek into the manufacturer level.
Yes.
So I was always in the field and the outside.
Yeah.
And especially running Apex for so long, we had to work so hard with no budget to try to get demo cars and whatever. And now I get to peek into what, these Nürburgring cars are doing. So for me, that's my career itch that I'm scratching right now. And I'm really enjoying it. But, by no means is my love for tuning cars. I'm always mentally lowering and a body, whatever. But but you have to have that, I think, or else when I was doing fashion for 5 years for my grandfather's company, ladies denim, I hated it.
Yeah.
And I could see how I was the guy that had no fashion sense.
Right.
I could see they were looking at me like I was that cheap Chinese knockoff company. Like I'm all standing like I know what's going on, and it felt really weird. But yeah. So cars is hard for work. If you're not a manufacturer or a driver, whatever, or a shop owner, like you can't make money in cars. So you got to do something else. So I think that's the hard part. I mean, compared to other industries. So you really have to know and like it. And then from there you hook up with people and then opportunities sort of open up for you. Yeah. I mean, that's what happened with me. So, I mean, it's weird.
Yeah. I worked in the aftermarket car parts industry for a while, and it's pretty toxic. It's difficult to find stability in it if you're not at the top, like you said. But if you can find your own, like what makes your ideas different or unique, and you pursue them, like, I mean, you're the perfect example. I mean, sky's the limit. You can do so much cool stuff.
I was just lucky at the right place.
It definitely always. It always involves luck, but you have to have the passion, right?
Yeah, I agree. And so I mean, it's just weird how things play out. And I think it happens in the skateboard industry, probably in like the racing drone industry right now, and just these niche markets. So I always love looking at like these up and coming like racing drone industries or whatever, and you're like, oh, those are the Bensons, and there's the Nadine. She's the first VR drone hilarious. Pilot ever.
Yeah.
No, you guys have left your mark. I mean, I really remember you guys coming up, and I was like, oh, and they got married. I was like, what? Like it was cool stuff. Yeah. No, so I mean, I totally think that's great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you. So Toshi, did you have any? You said you got pretty close with Ueno. What's he like? Do you have any cool stories, personal stories with Ueno?
Well, I have tons of stories like with Ueno. You have the typical drifter, and I know you guys know. They're viewed at differently in Japan. People who run JDM cars and tune JDM cars are like Japanese rednecks. So they're domestic cars in Japan. So you got to think of a 180 or a 240 or an S13, S14 as a Mustang.
That's wild.
So the average Japanese person in Japan are like, oh, these orange-haired country boys with their loud cars, street racing, causing trouble. So they're like one step up from Bosozoku.
Nice.
And Bosozoku is glorified overseas, but in Japan, it's like the menace to society. Like totally just drop out kids. So they're called Yankees, right?
Yeah.
And so drifters get a bad rap. We did JDM Insider to sort of break that up and to show like there's families and girls and like cool people. But everybody overseas loved it. But people in Japan still look at it, and you see a JZX 100 cruising down the street, 500 horsepower, super clean, and like, oh, Toshi-san, you work with us? Yes. They're like, oh, you're one of them. So it's still got a bad image.
Right.
But Ueno was the opposite. So the Arido and all those guys, Taniguchi, they had really worked from the bottom up through the Ikatens, and they wanted to be professional race car drivers. That's the only way to legitimize the path you've taken, because you're not a corporate guy, salary man now.
Right.
You're not a business owner, so you're just a driver. So you have to go that path. You want to get sponsored by Toyota. You want to get into these series.
Right.
And motorsports is a big deal over here. So Yokohama guys are a little bit flashy, and they already had their four-door gig going on, their identity. So he struck me very different from, let's say, the wild and crazy, doing handstand guys, or like the Team Orange guys, just performance. So that was one thing that struck me. He was more into brands, like Gucci's and like.
You can see it in everything he's got.
Yeah.
The way his car looks.
He would be the first, especially, he's not as bad these days, but back then he's like, you got to look good first. You got to look good, so you got to get the good wheels first. And other guys are like, no, just put whatever on. So they definitely had a style, which I liked. He worked hard. T&E is named after him and his mother, Etsuko. And I met her, but she passed away at the time. So he took it on with his brother, and so to this day they're doing Vertex and all that together, family business. So yeah, so he's super down to earth. We actually made two JDM Insiders that never got released, Barbecue Drift and number 6. But both those times we sort of ran out of money and ran out of options, so we just went to his country house in the mountains and we had a barbecue, and then we trailered up 2 of his cars into the mountains and just started drifting up and down the hill. Wow. And we nicknamed it barbecue. But I have to ask Phil where the footage went. It never came to fruition.
Oh man.
But yeah, so I mean, yeah, and then his wife Arisa, she was a pro drift, one of the earliest drift females in Japan. And so she's a team, I don't know if she's a manager, but she's at Daigo's place.
Okay.
Daigo Saito.
Yeah.
So she runs their booth. So it's a real drifting, like they're still like for life, Yeah. And so it's cool and like totally down to earth. Yeah, but super cool guy.
I have a memory with Ueno, and it was actually it happened twice, and I didn't understand why, because I don't speak Japanese. But there were a couple of events where one of them was at testing day at Irwindale, and another one was at Vegas, and Ueno was at both of them, and at both places I caught him just like looking at my car and staring at it for a while, and I didn't know why.
Why?
Like my imagination would just wander, and I thought like, he's just designing body kits in his brain or something. I don't know, but like that was I don't know. Do you have any insight? Did you ever see him just like stand there and look at a car?
Yeah. Well, at one time we would go to the molding, the factory where they're working on the molds, and so he's like, hey, do you mind if I drop by somewhere on the way to dinner? All right, let's go. So you go to the shady garage, and in the back you see an S13, or this is my new series, the Vertex Ridge kit. It's going to be a wide body.
Oh yeah.
And he to this day, if you look, he gets down and dirty. He's a wrencher by heart. Okay. So you'll feel it. And back then, like let's say you look at Keimura, Rockabye, different people are using different techniques now. Some people are using modified like CNC style, the machine sort of carves it out, CG, whatever. But he was like, back then it was just like the craftsman and whatever. So he would sit there and feel it. Takes 5 times longer, but yeah, so he's definitely into that. Also relatively recently, when he was designing the kit on his RC, his Lexus, so he would start with illustration sketches from his designer, take that out, add event there, no, I don't like this and that, go into the mold and I'm sure from there. So he is always thinking about it. It's just, I think body kits after a while, it's difficult because you just get copied, and you can only invest so much time in certain models. So I think that was an unfortunate drain. You spend half of your time looking for counterfeit stuff, and that's the reality. So you can't be creative for too long. So,
that makes it.
But he's definitely he's definitely a wrencher, and he's definitely into it, and he's got the artistic.
Oh, I could see it because all of his aero, no matter what kind of car it is, you see the Vertex signature lines. Nothing's too harsh. There are no crazy lines. It's soft. It kind of follows the original body lines a little bit, but you look at it and you can tell it's Vertex. So I mean, I'm really into like the artistic lines and stuff with aero, and I could totally see it.
And it stands the test of time.
Yeah.
It looks so classy.
Yeah. Well, your car was clean at that time too.
Yeah.
So maybe he was just looking at, because there were like a lot of gaudy cars. I can't believe, like I shouldn't be saying this, but I can't believe people are idolizing the Fast and Furious 1 cars. I mean, that's like seriously, like back then we were like, you're using these stickers, you're joking, right? Because Keith, one of our employees, Keith Imoto, at Apex, his car was Dom's RX-7.
Yeah.
It used to be a very famous gun metallic, almost a goldish silver metallic FD with a Veilside kit. Yeah. And he had it as number one. Like, I don't know why he's not more well known for that. But the Supra is more well known. But we bagged on him all day.
Yeah.
You did that to your car,
Yeah.
dude, bro. What are you thinking,
Yeah.
right? And so I don't know who's laughing now, but I
Right.
mean,
Well,
so you never know. But your car was clean. It
thank
was
you.
the JDM look.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it was very. I liked it a lot. Actually, both of your cars were pretty good. I'm not just saying that. But
I appreciate it. It's funny you
Yeah.
mentioned the gaudiness, because I also noticed in the episode where you saw like some US style sport compact cars in Japan, and you were
Yeah.
freaking out because you thought, I mean, obviously you were there in Japan giving us the JDM Insider perspective on everything, and then here you see like the kind of cars that maybe you didn't particularly like, not the JDM style. But
Yeah.
we kind of see that a lot now, where Americans, or maybe people just outside of Japan, they're inspired by Japan and they kind of take it and they put their own spin on it, or maybe they exaggerate, or they incorporate the Japanese inspiration, but it's not exactly Japanese. It's different. It's noticeably different. And then Japan
Yeah.
notices that, and then they take that and they kind of do the same thing. They take that and they put a Japanese spin on it.
Yeah, it's the people. It's the cluster of people that happen to pick it up.
Yeah.
And behind the sport compact group in Japan at that time, if you looked at their booth and the people that were hanging around the car, they were different from what Ueno's and the drifters would be like. They look different, they dress different. These guys would be more like LA gangsters. Like they were probably into lowriders before.
Yeah.
Like it's just different. Yeah, so it's weird. And now with the internet, just like you said, it's like a reverse import, this and that.
Yeah.
I can't
keep track.
can't even believe the name JDM stuck.
Yeah.
Back then,
Yeah.
like JDM, what is JDM? Japan domestic market.
Yeah.
Like, that's so stupid, right? And so we were like trying to convince also the old dudes from like Summit Racing. It was total red,
Yeah.
and so now, I mean, even the name JDM Insider for us, like we were in the car, like, what should we name it? It's got to be something crazy, this and that, and already Grip Video was selling, and then it's cool stuff. We're like, how about JDM Insider?
Yeah.
Like, behind the JDM.
Yeah.
It's so stupid it might work.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, let's do that.
But that's exactly what you guys did, though.
Yeah, no, I know. So it's funny, but yeah, it's just all it like nobody would ever guess, right? So yeah, same with the trends, how it's mixing. But I think some cool stuff has gotten out of it. But it's a different game now. With if I was building a car today, my next car or whatever I decide to build, it's like you got to do it different now. And people are just doing their whole builds on YouTube, and even if I started Apex today, we'd have to do it differently to survive. Than back in the day. So it is, you just got to be ahead of the pack somehow, right?
Yeah.
Back then for us, it was language, traveling back, getting the people here, and so
yeah. I want to talk to you about another JDM Insider episode. I was watching your episode with the girl drifting, and it was so cute. And whoever was editing it picked the cutest music for the girls, and I loved it, and it was so sweet. And I've always kind of wondered, and I've heard rumors like about girl drifters in Japan, and like, is it as hot in Japan to see a girl drifting as it is in America to see a girl drifting? Like how are girl drifters seen and perceived in Japan versus the USA?
Okay, so Japan consumer economy is driven by female makeup, fashion. The guys work. The guys work all day, so they just drink and they get beat up and they come home. But the girls are out spending the money, doing the stuff. So TV, everything is geared towards females. Okay, so you already have this stereotype of what a female should be: beautiful, this and that, work, whatever. And then you go into the drifting. If you're asking like a hardcore drifting guy, if he thought a hardcore drifting girl was cute, I'm sure he'd say, "Yeah, dude, she's awesome," right? But if you're talking on the mainstream, it's like probably not. Like they don't celebrate it as openly as they should, like America would.
Yeah. So they're like misfits.
It's not like it's not like an athlete, because they can't see the joy, the benefit, the effort that's going in. But let's say drifting was in the Olympics, just like skateboarding recently. You know, how long did it take for skateboard? Then all of a sudden you're a pioneer,
Right.
and you're sacrificing your family and your kids for your passion and supporting your husband and getting your hands dirty. What a, it's like, but Japanese are like a school of fish. And so it's like, they just move around like this. So when you hit it big with one idea or whatever, then everybody will come support you. But until then, you really gotta like swim on your own and just take the heat.
Yeah.
And there's tons of stuff like that. But yeah, I think that if you look at Tsuchiya's videos once in a while, or and I actually take some of that back. If you're, because there are some female rally drifters that are sponsored by GR, and some Cusco and stuff. Those girls, I think, garner good respect, and
I see.
So I think if you're in a respectable motorsport,
right,
then you'll get it. But if you're in drifting, which hasn't been D1, if they didn't self-implode with their own whatevers, they would have been in a much stronger position. And I'll say it for the record. I mean, it is what it is. They split up the communities, and it sort of set the whole thing back a little bit. Formula D is doing their best to keep things global and to keep it tied in, but the reality is that kind of nonsense puts the individuals back. It sets them back in their careers. And so the bottom line is, you cannot make a career out of it. Means you're just playing, means you're not responsible, means, so I think those kind of unfortunate things get linked in.
But got it.
But there are some hot, good female drifters. They're ripping it.
Good. Yes. Yeah. For sure. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, no one cares if you're just hot. You gotta be hot and good.
Hot and good.
No, because the hotness comes from the good.
Yes.
I agree with that.
Be good. But yeah,
nobody wants to see just a pretty face and like
Yeah, but thank you for that episode. That was a great episode.
Oh yeah,
love that.
I
think that inspired us early on, because our efforts with Drifting Pretty and just promoting women empowerment through motorsports, and to see you guys highlight girl drifting so early on, I think that was very motivational for us and other members.
So because of you, I got a call from Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift. Yes. And you guys wanted... Did you know? Do you remember that? Do you remember that?
Maybe not. Well, you may have to light me. I'm starting to sweat right now. Whoa.
He's sweating. Man, I'm like in charge of all the heavy hitting questions. So you actually referred me to, I don't know, some casting agent guy, and he called me and he's like, "Hey, Toshi referred me to you. We need your hands and feet." to do the toge scene, actually they didn't tell me anything. They just needed me to double. And so they called me and they said, "You referred me." So
you did it. You did it.
I did it. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So I came in. Yeah. I read that you did some of them, and I was doing it for Neela, and and it was really cool and really cool experience. So, and I guess people listening don't know your involvement with Fast and the Furious 3 and 4. And a lot of us love Tokyo Drift. And some of us are like, "Oh man, it's gone mainstream." But I would say the majority of our listeners love it. And I think we have you to thank for a lot of that. And I want to talk about your involvement in Tokyo Drift first, and just what did you do and how did that come about? Because I think a lot of people don't know.
Yeah. So I was the technical consultant for the movie, and what that meant was I would work with Justin Lin, the director, and we would anything drifting related, anything car related, I would make sure it was accurate as much as possible.
And so you and Justin were homies, or
no? So there were two things. So one, I had just finished appearing in the Discovery Channel rides documentary with Reese Millen and everybody else, and so that was already out there, and then so that caught the eye of Clayton Townsend, the executive producer at the time. And then also my high school buddy, Roger Fan, he was in one of Justin Lin's films, Better Like Tomorrow, and he was my good high school. So he called me, he's like, "Hey bro, one of my friends, the director, we're looking at the next Fast and Furious. Thought you'd be great. You have free time. You can meet with him. And then at the same time, I got through Universal. We want you to come in, possibly to help us. And so went to a cafe in Hollywood. Total Hollywood scene. Just cliched. Everything you can imagine about it happened. Iced tea, sunny sunglasses.
Yep. Gotta have the glasses.
And so he's like, hey, we and I don't know if they're gonna get on my case, but basically the gist was number 2 tanked. We're probably we don't even know if this is gonna go straight to video. We have a budget set aside. We're gonna do drifting. We want to make it as accurate as possible, and we have no headline actors. Everybody's gone. Okay, so all right, so and then it's Justin's first movie, and so we're like, okay, so nobody expected it to be good.
Yeah.
And Paul, I don't know if it was fired or quit, but they were all gone, and so we had this new cast, and the cars were the heroes, and so I said sure. Went on location scouting with them for a little bit, signed on, and then I got to hang out with Justin. Totally cool guy. Knowing Roger fan at the time really warmed up. And got that trust going. He's like, hey, this is my first big movie, so I treat it. It's like a circus. Like once you're in the crew, you're in the crew, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the lighting, makeup people, to this day, a lot of them are still the same from Tokyo Drift, right?
Okay.
So,
wow.
So I shouldn't have left, right? But anyway, so no, but so suddenly we sat down. He's like, here's what we have, and here's the script. Go home and look at it, and it was just garbage. It was like terrible. I was like, it was the same trajectory that number 2 was going on, but worse. And so the script was, it was the story that we saw, but just the artwork and whatever. And just like, hey man, we gotta just tighten it up a little bit. And I'm like, yes. And so we started by really toning down the cars as much as we could. And we would get to a point where they would say, hey Toshi, this is not a documentary.
Yeah.
This is Hollywood.
Oh,
you have to give a little bit of a dream.
Oh man.
And then Japan, I'd be like, that's not accurate. And he'd be like, Toshi, this is my Japan. So you would hit these roadblocks.
Yeah.
But in pre-production, I had the rare opportunity with number 3 to go from pre all the way to red carpet. So I got to see the whole thing, even in the cutting room. And sometimes you set it up, but you film it and it doesn't work.
Right.
We were really lucky because they had 2 units, production teams, and one was with all the drivers. And so I rarely got to visit them because we were doing it concurrently. So Reese and all those guys, we'd be like, what do you think about this? We see the footage and we're like, it's good, whatever. Just as minimal, if not any CG as much as possible. And so I think we did a pretty good job. There's a couple that we had to, but and just the sequences just over and over, we would just go over the driving ones. And so that unit did an awesome job, I think. And then so I was also working with the actors also they didn't know anything about it. So, you had to, like, the steering wheels that they had, it's connected to another steering wheel that I was holding. So I was doing the feedback, and when they would let go, I would flip it sometimes, and they would flip the other way, and they would counter steer, and so sometimes if you look closely, sometimes I get excited, I flip it really quick, and so like it's not that much counter steer, it's like, and they're like catching it.
Wow.
But so that was sort of how it was, and obviously it's a huge crew. My participation on it, I would give 100%, and I don't know how much it got diluted. I was happy at the end, but that's all you can do. And then I had already experienced with number 1, Fast and Furious 1, with Apex sponsoring and giving product a lot, and with Keith's car with the car. So I had already known the guys that were already working on the movie cars, and so that made it a lot easier too. I mean, they didn't need much direction. They were like, okay, so we're just going to keep, once we had the cars sort of dialed in, the rest of it was, is this realistic? Would the car move like this? No, it wouldn't. You have to give them more space, and stuff like that. So
that's so cool. Can you tell me whose idea was the parking lot, the parking structures?
Location scouting had already found that plaza, and it was already abandoned. And so there was that circle there. And I had obviously said, dude, you got to drift up that, and also if you're simulating a Japan one, they don't have those kinds in Japan as much. So I think it'd be super cool.
And they tried everything on it. They did the drifting up. They tried it with dummy cars, with rails, all kinds of stuff. But it's just now kids can do that no problem. But back then it was like, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about, right?
Yeah. Parking lot. Wait a minute.
Let's just say though, like it's just Hollywood, like is just on a whole nother level of and I can only imagine what the space F9 is right now. Like I don't even know what's going on with that. But but seriously, even after 4 and 5, like we were still like outcast. We were the garbage movie, and I never got to be on set with Paul Walker. Vin Diesel only came back on after he saw a clip of the movie and he agreed to take over the rights. That's why he decided to do the cameo at the end. Until then, nobody cared about our movie at all.
Right.
So, only Sung has really remained active, some of the other guys here and there, but like the mood back then during set was completely focused on different people.
Got it.
People would come on set. Yeah. This is my movie, totally different. So I'm just having a fun time sitting back and watching how everything unfolds.
Right.
I never try to go out and brag about any of it. It's just, it is what it is. Right. So I think this is the first time I've ever even talked about it in person. Like it's just,
It's become a cult classic, and like unironically, I've heard plenty of people say that it's their favorite because it's just the most true.
yeah, isn't that it's so ironic? But we knew though that there were certain elements like that. If you're in a car, you can't deny it though, because like just the movement of the cars or like the as accurate as we could, and behind the scenes, like I'm drinking with Keiichi. We would only meet. Because I know him really well through D1 and all this stuff. I even do WTSC with him. So I've known him even through Apex and stuff. So, we would call each other, hey, you're going to go to that shoot by the dock? Yeah, I'll be there. And, so what do you think? Have you seen any of the footage before? Are they going to make it embarrass me? Are they going to, no, it's okay. Right? But, he was in the B-rated movies when I was in just starting off street racing, and I'm like, I want to be like you. And those like total 90s R30 when the R32 was brand new movie.
Oh, when he does the arm flex,
half naked, posing in his. But I'm like, dude, this guy is the man, right? Oh, I could go into whole other things with him, but it is
But my last question is, did you get paid good?
Actually, no. I got paid what they said. Like, I didn't know how to negotiate.
Oh.
So, like, they were supposed to say, like, that the good actors and the good people get a cut of box office.
Yeah, residuals, right? Or like, or
but the peasant staff crew members, they don't get that. And because I wasn't SAG and I wasn't all that, like, I didn't even get the union. So they're like, what do you make in a year? And I was like, and they're like, so we'll just give you a little fluff on top of that. And that's what it was.
Oh.
And then they just pay you bi-weekly. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah.
So
I never went in as a money-making thing.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, it was a lot of fun, but, and actually back then I was a sellout. Like I remember for that year while we were filming, because number 2 was so hated. But back in the time, around the people around me, they just, Paul wasn't where he was as an actor yet. So it was just like, you ruined our industry. What are you guys doing? Right. And you're helping them. So I got a lot of flack from even my coworkers.
I think that's something that a lot of the younger generation don't realize, because because of the podcast, because of my involvement with like drift events today, like judging drift events, I get to talk with a lot of the younger generation, a lot of maybe the current generation of young drifters today. And they always tell me that the Fast and the Furious franchise is why they're drifting. So because of the first few movies, the Tokyo Drift, that kind of like was mesmerizing to them. It was they saw it and they knew that's what they wanted to get into. So they idolize all of those the crazy ricey cars from the first movies, and
the power of media. I mean, I got those comments during JDM Insider, and that was like the heartwarming ones. We started drifting and tuning because of JDM Insider, and then when it got to Fast and Furious, those same guys like, you ruined it. All these guys are coming in, ruining the industry, the events. And so I got that negative flack for the first year.
Toshi, I remember feeling that way, and I remember not wanting to watch the movies because I was afraid of what it was going to do. And you know, we were doing a lot of drifting, or when Fast and the Furious 1 came out, we were still driving toge and doing all the, you know, street drifting and stuff. And I was so afraid that when that movie came out, the cops were just going to get us for everything.
People were ruthless.
Yeah. And when I got that call to double, I was like, ooh, Fast and the Furious? And,
yeah, right?
And
it was cringe.
Yeah, I felt like you probably felt. I mean, mine was only a tiny role that I got paid like $150 for. But I mean, it was just like, I had that conversation with myself, like, dang it, like, am I going to be a sellout if I do this? Like, well, should I tell anybody? But this is a really cool opportunity.
Once in a valid
lifetime.
Concern. Yeah. It was. Yeah.
And so I ultimately went through with it because I was like, dude, this is so cool. Forget everybody else. Yeah. Like, this is like once in a lifetime opportunity. I'll never get to do something like this again. So
and now you guys are celebrated.
Well, no. My take was like, I felt like self-conscious, obligated to try to fix it when I saw the script. I was like, dude, this is gonna be worse if we don't fix it. So I was like, okay, I'll help, whatever. So that was sort of my trigger to get involved. Like, I didn't know enough about Hollywood to even want it because I was an actor. It didn't matter, right? And they were gonna pay me that much, so I was like, but dude, this is bad. So sure, why not? Yeah. So
it was gonna get made with or without you. Yeah. Right.
Exactly. You know what? And they actually said that to me. It's gonna happen with or without you. And I was like,
kind of feel terrible.
You're like, I'm on.
I'm on.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that's right. They did say that.
Well, thank you for doing what you did, because I don't know if you get this, but anytime, you know, maybe one of my coworkers will find out somehow that I'm into drifting, and then the first thing they say is always, "Oh, like the Fast and the Furious movie," and you know, what am I gonna say? You know, no, it's nothing like that. It is a little bit like that, but I can only imagine if that original script came out without your help, how much worse it would have been.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, Toshi.
No, it just happened to work out okay. So
Thank you. We really appreciate you. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. And so this segues into, you know, I saw an R34 on the set. I saw Skylines on the set, and it kind of brought me back to our Motorex conversation earlier in the podcast. And I pull out the heavy hitting questions. I've been really quiet this episode, so I need to speak up because my producer always tells me that I need to talk more. So guess what, guys? We need to talk to you about Motorex. Okay. Because you were like besties with the Motorex dude. And it's funny because you even hung out with like Sean Morris, and he does the Skylines these days. And like, I don't know if people listening even know. So I want you to walk us through what Motorex was, what happened, because not everybody knows what happened. And I want your insider knowledge of what happened.
My take on it?
Yes.
So the climax part, the fallout from it, obviously I wasn't there, or I'd be in jail too, or in hiding. So I'll tell you my involvement with it. Like I said, when I met Hiro and the Motorex guys, we saw him at the car show, and back then life was glowing. Life was, bringing tuning cars, you know, whatever. And there was a GTR there, and there were a couple people that had tried to bring the GTR in beforehand, like Speed Factory and some other places. And so it already had a little bit of a momentum going, but they disappeared. And then this guy's came in and said, this looks legit, right? They have like 3 or 4 of them. Got to be close friends right off the bat, drinking buddies. And that's where the close friendness comes, all in the industry. My crew, the Apex crew, along with the Motorex crew, we all started just all hanging out, and we started the Orange County, Torrance, you know, back and forth, working, collaborating on projects together, eventually leading to JDM Insider. And so we had a really good relationship. And Hiro, like a lot of people got burned by him. I mean, that's the bottom line. And if he burned me, like he didn't do anything to me personally, to defraud me or whatever. But the fact of the line is he burned a lot of people. And so for that, I think that's totally messed up. And so for the record,
so let's clarify Hiro's involvement with Motorex. Was it just Hiro? was it just him
Well-
running everything, or like because I know it was him and
Well, he was the president, obviously.
He's
He was
the
the president
president.
of Motor.
okay.
Like Sean and those guys were more of the technical, literally getting the cars to the
Logistics.
the certification,
Yeah. Mhm.
logistics.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're looking at all the devilish, fiendish things, I would have to isolate to Hero at the end of the day. I the last time I spoke to him was through a manager at one of the bars we were drinking at, who basically told me, Hero has a message for you saying that he can't talk to you anymore because, you know,
What the?
it's gonna hit the fan. He doesn't want to drag you down into it because he knows you haven't done anything, which I didn't.
Yeah.
So that's it. And that was the last I've ever heard. And
This
from
is
there,
at a bar in Japan.
you know, that we used to
In-
go
in
to. And
US
and over
in
here in the
USA?
US. And so I knew the manager really well. And he's like, hey, he dropped in and he has this message for you. And I was like, oh, okay. And so we still had H2 Productions for JDM Insider as
Yeah.
a sub company open. I had to
Oh,
get a
wow.
lawyer to remove his name. And I got calls from the detectives about my car and about my association because I was the most high profile. I was the one
Oh.
out there on camera with
Yeah.
them. And as a working with a corporation, I had the response of my 15 guys at the time too. So we just told them whatever we did, whatever we knew, like we just hang out and would party.
Yeah.
What financial dealings do you have with Motorex? None. I bought my car
Right.
from, here's my receipt.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just go hang out. So that was the extent of, whatever. But I would notice when I'd go hang out, our partying was pretty hardcore. Live hard, work hard, party hard. Like we'd
yeah.
party like super hard. But as we would go to the store, I'd notice more and more like, the toolboxes were, like not as used as much, or people, a rotation of staff members, or you'd see certain cars that should have been gone that were still there.
Yeah.
But you never ask about that. And I'm
Right.
sure, even at just the way things were, like, he handled the finances. And so, you'd ask the guys, you'd go into the lobby at 9 p.m. and you see Sean and Ken and all those guys just like hanging out, say, hey, what's going on? Yeah, nothing. Where's Hero? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what's going on with the car? He knows. We're just, we did what we need to do. We're waiting for the next, and
Right.
like
geez.
stuff like that would increase. And then I would go to the, the bars that we would be going to, and it's like, yeah, he was here partying till whatever, or
Oh,
Yeah.
So
gosh.
I think that toxic mix of super partying turned into spiral trigger.
Yeah.
And you got to realize, like, everybody back then was at the top of their game. Like, we were peaking at Hollywood movies coming around, the businesses were booming, that the whole thing was growing. You were like almost like a little rock star in your own right.
Yeah.
And so he's partying with all these people. And I think he just got numb, and it's just, desensitized, and just things spiraled out of control. Because the Hero that I know
Mhm.
before all that happened was, he likes reading anime, manga, and he's almost, I don't want to say introverted, but he's just a funny guy to talk
Yeah.
to, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's pulling a gun on this and kidnapping and extortion. That's a man falling down, and I
Right.
think that could happen to anybody. So,
Right.
but I literally, and then it's like he's like Bigfoot now. So me and a couple other guys, my friends, I am purposely not naming them, but whatever. But they're like, hey, have you seen Hero? I'm like, where's Hero? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I heard last we saw him, there's sightings in Torrance, or sightings
Oh,
in
wow.
Hawaii, or sightings in this.
Right.
And once again, I'll get a text. It's like, hey, somebody says they might have seen him here.
Oh my
in
gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Literally like Bigfoot.
But I was angry at him. I was really angry for about 2 years. Like, dude, what what are you doing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How could you do this to me? And after a while, I'm like, it has nothing to do with me, right? I
Right.
sort of let it go after a while. But
Yeah.
I was also in that phase, in that peak, in the
Yeah.
moment of
Yeah.
like, I was a player, and I'm like, bro,
He
you
dragged
ditched
you
me on
into
the
it.
company.
Mhm.
I have to hire a lawyer.
Yep.
You make a fool out of me on film.
Yeah.
You didn't even
Entanglement.
consult
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, bro, I need to skip town. I'm gonna, commit a crime. I'm gonna do what I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, So at that time, I was pretty angry. But
So can you confirm what was he being investigated for? Because some of us
Well-
don't know everything.
So I-
Yeah, but before we get into that, let's tell the story of Motorex. I think we kind of skipped over that.
I just went into the crime.
Yeah, just
the juicy nang parts, but need it.
Yeah. So I mean, Motorex was the first company that I knew of that was importing R32 GTRs. and they were making them legal to own in the U.S. And it was so big that I would see them on like Road and Track and Motor Trend. And they were making it. It was way bigger than just maybe like Turbo Magazine or something. It was mainstream.
No, Road and Track was big back then.
Yeah.
To get in there where you were mainstream.
Right. Like it's official. Like these aren't some little kids. Like I could trust giving them my money to buy a GTR. And so, I mean, the rumors that I heard were that they were bringing in these cars and they were making them legal, but somewhere along the way, they stopped doing what they were supposed to do to make them all legal. So you can buy an R32 that was certified as a Motorex street legal car, but they didn't do what they were supposed to do to it to make it legal. And so I think some things, I mean, Toshi, maybe you have to clarify for me, but something went wrong. The government stepped in and started seizing a bunch of cars. And then there were other companies that were importing cars at the same time. And anyone who had a car imported by any of these companies, they started hiding their cars because the government was looking for their cars to
crush.
seize. Yeah. And it all ended pretty badly from what I remember.
So what is your take on the crime? What was the true crime? What was he being investigated for?
So I wasn't there for the operational. So let's say somebody like Sean, right? Like I actually, my car, my baby car, the only person that I would have sold it to was through Sean. And that's what I did because he was the one that really legitimized the nitty gritty of the federalization and all that. So to put it in a negative way, he was the worker and Hiro was the boss. And so in that sense, you can sort of cut what the worker did as a good process versus what the business as an owner, what they were doing. I'm going to get this new customer. I took his money. I promised it to him in 6 months.
Right.
Versus, hey, Sean, here's 3 R33s, 1 R32, go get them federalized. Right. So, I think to the staff of Motorex, for all of them, for their credit, I have 100% faith that none of the shenanigans happened directly. Like you can't fudge that. Like you can't take it. You either don't take it to the federalization place, or you do. And to get the work done. So that part, I don't know the details of whose car went to what. I do know that obviously some cars didn't, because that's what started the whole thing. A lot of my information also was from that. Was it the Super Street article, whatever? I mean, I didn't know some of that because there were guys that worked there that were giving the information on the direct stories. And so I don't want to skew the story either way, but the feds and whatever I heard got involved, not because of the federalization problem. It was a money related problem or something like that. And then they got sued or whatever. And then when they came in, they looked inside and like, whoa, you're trying to federalize the 32, 33, 34, all is the same car,
right?
But they're not the same car.
Right.
34s are different from 33s. They all have different airbags. They have this.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden my car was like, ding, 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 warning. So close the garage door, right?
Yeah.
So I'm running on dealer place. And then the 33s, up until this year was okay. Okay. We so they went through with a fine tooth comb and looked at it. And then after that, they just went back and they're like, these 14 cars, we'll just have grandfather them in. It wasn't enough. From here on out, you guys are all illegal. And then to, fire and whatever, then other people started bringing them in, and that made it even worse.
Yeah.
Then the headhunt, the crushing, the witch hunt happened. Yeah. And that's when I was selling jeans in Japan. So it didn't really matter.
you were all good.
My car was just like
lock and key.
It was just collecting dust, right? And the oil coking up at whatever. But so I mean, but the fact is, I think, I mean, I don't want to throw it at Sean, but like he knows way more as far as the nitty gritty. But at the end of the day, I think it was just a business management problem. They threw away an unbelievable opportunity. But now in retrospect, like everything else we've been talking about, it just adds to the legend. Yeah. And in 2024, when the 34s are out, tuning for 24, whatever. When they're all out, I mean, that's just adding to the stigma of it. Now I'm in Japan, and I almost feel bad being involved. And like, you see an R34 over here, it's a rare car now. It's like, we are hated for taking everybody's R32, 33, 34. Like Japan tuners and the young guys, everybody's angry because people are stealing everybody's car. Like all in the Japanese Facebook feeds, the tuners, supers are getting stolen. They're all getting stolen, and they're all showing up in America and Europe.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, but mostly in America right now. So a lot of hot R32s and 33s and 34s, right? And now, it's crazy price, but anyways, yeah. So, but very unintended consequences, but I guess that's life, yeah. But yeah, sorry if it wasn't the most like crazy, scandalous thing.
It is pretty scandalous. I don't know. I mean, you were talking on the feds, that's pretty good. It's good stuff.
So Toshi, how did you get involved with D1 Grand Prix?
D1. So obviously, like I said, we had already had the championship drifting team with Yoichi Imamura and everybody in Japan. So my company had already a deep relationship with Sun Pros, the guys who ran D1 Grand Prix. I also knew them very well from our drag racing with the Skylines and all that stuff. And I'd been in a couple video options from before. So when they were going to do a driver search. And so we had already brought our car earlier and went to driver search here. Okay, we're going to do D1 driver search. Let's bring all the cars. And so they contacted my office and they're like, hey, we need somewhere to house it. So we had, 24,000 square foot facility at the time. And it was my call. So I was like, yeah, dude, bring everybody over. It'll be a party, right?
Everybody.
So we brought all the cars, rivals, anybody new, amateurs, factory works teams. They all came to our thing. It was great. We had barbecue, whatever, housed the cars, did the driver search that day. And they're like, hey, can you just translate for Tsuchiya and whatever? Here's one of those mega bullhorns and just walk around with him.
Okay.
And I was still shallow with Keiichi, but, just enough, it's great. And it's like, you're just talking and I'm just like, and he's like, hey, you talk a lot. You're pretty good. You want to try here, just sit down here and we're not going to put you on video option though, because Manapi and everybody can be talking. You're just sort of like the puppet.
Yeah.
You just keep the locals entertained with your job.
Right.
Because D1, for their credit, but also for their demise, all they care about is their own videos.
Yes.
So that's their problem. And that has always been their problem with the way that they gear for the fans, whatever. And everybody that's been involved with the organization, especially back then, will tell you the same thing. But I wanted it to be fun. And so I had no experience. I just studied up on the drivers and everything that I knew. And they just put a microphone there, like, all right, hit it. And it sucked because their video was only like 2 hours long.
Right.
But the event was 8 hours.
Yeah.
And if you start with training, and you guys were always there too, you cannot have a silent Irwindale. So I'm like talking for like 8 hours.
Oh my gosh.
8 hours at a time, trying to keep tons of antsy, on the edge, like teenager to 20-year-olds like happy and entertained. And so that's sort of how it started, and it just grew bigger and bigger. I mean, the first three were like it's all right, cool, yeah, whatever. They're coming in, oh, whatever. Yeah. And then the fourth one is like down, like Moto is saying, down the 605. You're like, yeah, oh, what have we done?
We broke Irwindale.
And so for the first time, I had to think about what it meant to be a professional MC host. Like I went on the internet and I had to think, and I'd have the heebie-jeebies. I'd throw up every time before every event. And then it's like, okay, it's like, it was almost like I had to get that nervousness out. And there's okay, here we go. And then once you start talking, it's okay. But so I never really enjoyed that feeling. But yeah, and then so I just, some of the, GT Live when we were doing the night events, Super GT, and then, at the end, you do it for a couple of years and you're doing the British series, Europe, and this and that. And, it just it just gets overwhelming. So like I was doing it before Jared and everybody at Formula D and all that. And at one point they were gracious enough to like, hey, you want to jump over to my side? And and the only reason why I do want to do it was I just didn't want to talk anymore. Like and it's a lot of work, and especially keeping up like with the latest news and what it is, and you can't keep saying the same thing over and over. So like there's a whole nother dimension of talent that needs to be done. I'll never forget though, like when you start a 24,000 or 20,000 person wave, you're like, all right, just on a whim, it's like, it's a little boring here. Let's stand up there. And then you're just like, whoa,
you're like, I'm
never going to experience this ever again, ever. So, and none of it really, there was no iPhones that much, so a lot of it's not documented except in, because I was cut out of all the video options. So there's really no good records of a lot of the extended US drifting event. It's always been edited for Japan. So I always thought that was sort of a bummer, but anyways, so and that was another reason I really got sick of listening to my voice. Just like like Ian from WTAC had to really twist my arm to do World Time Attack. And even now, this last year before COVID hit, I really minimized myself to only working with Tsuchiya. Just I don't know. It's just like I'm over it.
What is it like working with Tsuchiya?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, you hear a lot of bad and good stuff, but I think when you get to that level, like he is what he makes himself out to be. So I think I don't know of anybody else that passionately really thinks about, you're always going to make business decisions that might rub people the wrong way. You have to go this direction, or you want to get paid for what you do. I get that, and that's totally fine. But there are times for me, like the most important times, like let's say it's trivial, but you're just hungover, you're tired, and you could cut corners, but he'll never cut corners. Or like, you could be a jerk about it, but he will always get up and he will go down to the track or whatever, and he'll get it done, and he'll make sure it's perfect for the drivers. And not once out of the 15 years that I've known him, in any circumstance has he ever, even behind the scenes when I'm in the next room and he's talking to other people, been shady about like his purpose or intent for something. On the flip side, because he's so stubborn and adamant about it, a lot of people like it's a hassle to work with him sometimes. Because you guys and the staff too just getting thrown around, redo the K-rail, do this. Dude, who do you think you are, bro? So it's a double-edged sword. But I think, and he's almost, I think he's 60, past 60 now. Like even, lately I just a year and a half ago when we were at the event, he's so much energy though, we finished a 12-hour event and he was driving some supercars, drifted some cars, albeit not competitively, but just drifting around, sweating all day, finish at 8 p.m., take the racing suit off, do all your pictures, all fan service. Toshi, let's go to Sydney to go drink. Right now, I got to get up at 6 in the morning and I'm on camera at 7. No, you come with me. Drinking whiskey until 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. And that's when you're like, what a jerk. He goes to sleep and we have to stay up. But so it's a double-edged sword. But he's mythical. Yeah. Super crazy. Super cool guy though.
Do you remember, you mentioned that driver search at Fontana at California Speedway. For a lot of the US drivers that were trying to get their license that day, they were terrified at that event because cars kept getting wrecked.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. Well, Fontana, the way they set it up was just like, it's like treacherous. Yeah.
It was like, it's on the wrong side of the K-rail.
People were trying, and people were trying so hard.
You have to. If Keiichi's watching you, you have to go for it. Yeah. You have to go for gold.
Yeah.
But I there were like at least 2 cars that were totaled after that event. There was some bumps on the entry, and I think a lot of people didn't figure it out. You don't initiate where the bumps are. You do it after or you do it before. Yeah. If you do it at the bumps, your car is going where you don't want it to go.
Yeah. Those were definitely the golden years. Like the people that were also involved in that, like I said, nobody was the pro that they are right now with no factory backed teams. And it's easy to look back and to say those are the great days, but they were. And I think Benson suit coming up next to, da, 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 da. And I remember because I was actively announcing and trying to get everything, set. That's why I would know all you guys. And I would know last event, had this and that, going to the pits and this and that. And so, but I think, that's what gave that D1 era magic, really. And the people who remember it, but because there's no leftover documentation of it, now, the next generation that was influenced, now they see Formula D. So that's its own whole culture, in itself, this bubble, right? So so it's a really, now it's weird, it's an isolated era. I mean, a lot of people don't even know that I was involved in it too, and I mean, it's okay, but it's weird. So it's like, really, I'm talking for like 8 hours. No.
Well, no. In the US, what is it, JDM option, they had your voice talking and translating for everybody. So
that was the younger brother of Dai-chan, Inada Daijiro. He had been a successful businessman. He took over that and tried to get those videos out, but DVDs weren't selling. We were just a victim of. We did everything we could, but
During that event, while all the cars were crashing, did Keiichi ever question, maybe did I not design this course the best way, or do you remember anything like that? Or was he this is making for great drama for my video?
I'm not sure if it was that specific event, but something like that would happen all the time, especially at the driver searches. And he would say they're not trying hard enough. So it was never. He would say, my guys are stupid, monkey drivers, these Japanese guys. He's all, I've given them a career. I've given them something from their mountains to something to look forward to. Any one of my guys could take their car and drive it, or else I would not bring them here. He's all, and I would not let them get on the plane unless they were qualified to. And that's his attitude. So you could take that as conceited. You could take it as, wow, that's cool. But Nomuken, Taniguchi, all those guys, if you go back and watch the Ikatens and the drift competitions from the video options, even way back towards the late 80s to 90s, when they were doing the team ones too, and Nomuken was still team, Fukuoka National FNR Racing, and they'd come out with the sequence of choreographed 5 cars, boom, center car comes out, 2 cars come back in, and they go, and they're just, and so they were like already stunt drivers back then, before it became trendy to drift. And so these guys, the amount of time, and Japan has 4 seasons. Now that we're here, snow, rain, hurricanes, dirt. So these guys, in their bag of tricks, they're all terrain. They're probably not as good as, let's say, a rally driver, which I have amazing respect for, but they're pretty close in that sense. As far as being able to manage gravel and different kinds of things, which when they came here, it was almost an unfair advantage. All the guys, your guys' group, sunny California, barely, know the difference between good traction, concrete, asphalt, little bit of gravel. And so then going back to your question, if you're at a racetrack and you're like, just, and what do you think about this? It's like, work with it. What are you talking about? Would be his. So I'm pretty confident that's what he would have said at that time.
I always wondered, I when I saw how many people were crashing, a lot of the drivers were really upset. And I always wondered, is this what he wanted?
Don't quote me, but I think
right.
Makes sense.
But I was like, does he want us to crash, or does he?
It was never that. A lot of times, there were times when we would be in the booth and we'd be like, "There's a bump right there," and then so he would, if he knew about it beforehand, that's what the drivers' meetings were for. So that would be the one chance. And one thing that I did give credit is like all the drivers' meetings. And it's like, hey, who has a question? Who has a concern? Remember, we used to go through all that, right? And as I would translate for him, that's when you would be like, I don't feel comfortable with that. Okay, well, why don't we move this cone here, and you take a larger angle here, you'll transition, and maybe you can get around it, and that'll be part of the scoring. Okay, why don't you guys make sure you add that in your mind when you're scoring? And so, I think that helps. Their drift box now and all that's probably a totally different game. That's a whole nother disastrous story, but at least when there were qualified people who understood your car and understood probably where you were coming from, they would sort of zone in and say, everybody at this skill level, at this driver search is around here. So it sort of scaled everything perfectly. And so in that context, it's like, hey, bro, just move around it.
Right,
Move
right,
around that, or slow down. Don't crash.
Right,
you'll
right,
get
right.
more points for not crashing.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
Yeah.
Toshi, let's talk about drifting today.
Yeah.
I know that you've been approached to do some judging.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about
Judging, hosting.
Yeah.
The first thing I told them was about relevancy.
Yeah.
And I think as much as I don't do Throwback Thursdays and as much as I try not to set myself in stone,
Mm-hmm.
you have to realize that when you're proactive about a certain community and certain thing, if I'm spending my time trying to learn about OEMs and prototypes and trying to do this, then I'm less time following what's going on in the latest round of Formula D
Mm-hmm.
or Japan. Of course, my feed and all my Instagram, all of that is just saturated with information and cars, but I'm not going to events anymore. So I told them, I don't think I deserve to be in that spotlight. And I don't do it for whatever, but if I saw somebody non-related or has been at an event, I'd be like, what you couldn't get anybody else. So I don't want to be that guy. So that particular group from Europe, they were like, no, but that's fine. Your history is okay. We actually have a guy that would take care of that for you. Somebody who's up to date.
Mm-hmm.
You'd provide the counter commentary. So I guess in that context, it's all right. Like, oh, dude, the blast from the past. But I don't know. I don't know how that would work. I guess it depends on the situation. Why? I don't like where this is going.
No, this is not going anywhere. This is not going anywhere.
Heavy-hitting question number 22.
This is just about, this is about throwbacks because because all of the drifting stuff from when you and I were when we were originally involved in the early 2000s, it's making a resurgence. And so all of those early 2000s cars, all of those heroes that we had, like that is this so nostalgic for the young kids today.
Yeah,
and
I've noticed that.
That's I think I say it every single episode how lucky we are that the stuff that we fell in love with is relevant today. And so just the fact that they're thinking of you, I think it's amazing. It's
the biggest flattery ever. And I always tell people though, like, I'm not an industry figure, personality. I've never looked at myself. I'm like a hyper user. First and foremost, I'm a user. So if I get bored of my car, I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm gonna sell it. When I want to build a different car, I'm gonna buy. One of my old bosses also told me, if you're serious about building your car, don't build it yourself. Build a company that will build it, and you can build more. Build a fleet of cars, sponsor a team, and change people's lives with that car.
Right.
And that struck me after 6 beers too. I was like, but you get these words of wisdom, and you go to the top. And you look at you idolize certain people and you find out they're jerks. And you look at other people and you're like, you're the guy that made it work. And you have these moments throughout your career. And I've gone so deep in the JDM community. I've seen stuff that you shouldn't see. I've met people that should be on the spotlight, and I've met people that don't deserve it. And it's not my place to say, right? But I just choose where I want to live. So with this resurgence, I would hope that the people that deserve it can come out, and the people like you guys that are proactively putting your face out there again, trying to keep it real, get what you guys are looking for, and that I'm happy to come out of the bushes and, hey, I'm still alive.
yeah.
Thanks for remembering me, right? All right. But I totally help you guys out too. Moving forward, I don't know what I could do, but maybe to set the record straight or look back or to bring out certain people. But you just got to ask at the end of the day, why? And for me, cars was freedom, entertainment, expression, and freedom to move around. I was the kid that got bullied. I was never chosen for sports. I grew up in Newport Beach, right? Super white. It's okay, but I was like the Japanese, Chinese, whatever. So I was the loser kid, and cars gave me equal footing to talk to everybody in the world. And everything I do is sort of a payback now for that, and more focused into JDM. I love Porsches, I love Audis, but that's not my thing. Like I love the old 4-cylinder, this particular model niche market, and so
it's cool because it gave us a part of our own identity to be proud of.
Yeah. So if we could structure something as an era to and give the people, the players, the credit they deserve. Give them more of a zone, because right now our tuning culture, it's a mix of just blah cars and coffee, blah Photoshop rendering. It's just like a mess, right? And then you have like certain feeds, OG racers, this and that, but they're talking about like padding, I don't know whatever. Right? So I don't find myself in any of that, and because Option Video stopped their transmission, we lost communication with everybody in Japan. It's like the umbilical cord was cut with Japan. So all of the stories after a certain point in Japan, if you notice, stopped. News about Taniguchi or whatever the drivers. What about companies?
Yeah.
In that sense, maybe we should have kept JDM Insider going, at least from the corporate standpoint of who's doing well. Whatever happened to D1? Where did this go? What kind of cars? So how did the platforms react to certain tuning? What were the advantages and who was good at it? And you only see tidbits of just people jumping out of the water like a dolphin just once in a while, but there's so much that we lost and missed. And there are certain people that know that. So I think there's still a lot more stories to be told now that we have the platform and the means to be able to do that, right? Look at you guys got these crazy microphones now and studio and so I would, if you're gonna do that, and then I would support you going past 12 episodes.
Oh, definitely. Great. Hey, you gotta do video in Japan. JDM Insider.
Whatever. Well, I'll be your driver. I'll pick you up at the airport. Yeah. But
Sweet.
I think it's great what you guys are doing. But yeah, that's sort of my take on what we did in that era and stuff. And people are nice enough to listen for this. However long this podcast is, like, thanks so much. But
you're right. I think we are scratching the surface. There are so many stories out there that
right?
There's so many avenues of discussion we can go down. Like not even just to teach young people about it. It's just like just there's so many people that were involved that don't know like half the stories that surround them. So
well, I think if they're interested, we have something to give them. But like I hate it if we're just like, we did this. And
we're not trying. Yeah, we're definitely not.
I'm D1.
Yeah, we are not
Fast and the Furious.
You can thank me for that.
Me in. Yeah, right.
Just looking for that plane shot where everybody's sitting in the seats. And you might see some familiar faces.
I always say that I don't ever ask a guest on this podcast who does a good job promoting all of the things that they have done to help. All of their contributions. No, I'm looking for the guests that have done something that I've witnessed that I feel is important to the culture that we have today, and they're humble about it, and they're fine if nobody knows.
That's the thing. I mean, that's why even my website, like, it's just like, if you want it, it's there. It's just a photo album, but if not, like, it's like it's cool. I mean. Yeah, I remember when sport. Nobody owns it.
Of course,
like,
right? Yeah. No, I remember when I first asked you, you were kind of like, well, I don't really, I haven't done anything, and that's the answer I get a lot when I ask people, but that's why I ask those people because
thank you. I enjoy it. Yeah.
All right, Toshi, thank you so much, and we're gonna close out.
Thank you so much, guys.
Oh my gosh,
I know that you're a busy man. You have a family, so I appreciate you spending time on your Sunday morning to do this.
My pleasure. It's great. It's great.
And
very
no matter
warm feeling.
Yeah, of course. These discussions of just like reminiscing about like my favorite times of like the early 2000s with drifting and stuff. It's just the best for me. But no matter how much you think that maybe you didn't do anything. But you are a facilitator. You have, you were involved with what I like to call like drifting's grandfather. I mean, you were involved with import culture before drifting could start. It's like we needed sport compact, like Japanese sport compacts. We needed we needed legitimate tuning companies to be there to make parts for our cars. We needed drag racing to succeed and car shows to succeed before drifting could be popular. And so you had a big part in that. And, on behalf of all of us who enjoy drifting, thank you for being a part of that, and thank you for facilitating a lot of this stuff for us. It's very.
I didn't do it alone, but yeah,
you definitely did.
I will accept the thanks
Yes.
on their behalf.
You definitely did not do it alone, but you were part of it, and you know, and also with Fast and the Furious, although it was something that I didn't like at the time, but you know, it has helped people to understand what drifting is, even though if it was a little fantasy like, but you know, beyond the children at the time that it inspired who became today's drifters, it's gotten it's helped people like the mainstream market to understand drifting, and maybe that has helped with you know, drifting being accepted in terms of like being a legitimate sport, or it's helping professional drifters you know, do what they do through sponsorship and support and stuff like that. So I just wanted to thank you, even though you probably feel like you don't deserve it. Thank you.
No, I'm just glad to be a part of the puzzle. Just
Yeah.
glad to like, boop, boop. That's all I am. Yeah.
Yep. So thank you very
Glad
much.
it worked out okay. Yeah.
It worked
Thank you so
great.
much. Though. No.
It worked great, and this is now my new favorite episode. So
Me too. Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Toshi. And guys, that wraps up episode 6 of the Sileightymania podcast. If you want to stalk Toshi Hayama, you can visit him at stage-10, that's 10.net. And please follow us on Instagram at Sileightymania. And visit our website, podcast.sileightymania.com. And just a reminder, this episode will also be on YouTube, so you can see us live in action. And please leave us a message on our hotline. Leave us your questions or comments and tell us about the first time you fell in love with drifting. Leave your message or text 323-607-6075. And guys, we'll see you in the next one.